Good morning and welcome to CSL Denver, a place, a space, and a face of love, a spiritual community teaching ancient wisdom and applying universal principles to empower our lives and the lives of others. So glad you're here today. Today here in Denver is one of the largest pride parades in the country. And you know, as Rumi said, the topic is keep rising to the top. And so if you can just imagine back in New York City, back in 1969 at the Stonewall Inn, where the whole, I would say, movement of pride, if you will, began. When some police officers attacked some individuals, and you know, the story is legendary, and I would advise you, if you haven't read it or if you don't know the story, go and look at that history to see where we are today, where we now begin and continue to honor and recognize our LGBTQ community as part of everything that we do, and more importantly, everything that we are. And so when you look at that trajectory of where they came from and where they are now, it is by definition of today's talk of keep rising to the top, right? So because this month we're looking at this idea of sacred courage. Imagine the courage that it took to make that stand, to withstand all of the turmoil and all of the stuff that, you know, was not pleasant. We'll leave it at that. But the idea of rising to the top, of coming through circumstances, of moving beyond what seems like insurmountable odds, is what we tap into when we embrace this idea of sacred courage. Now, the inherent nature of man, of humanity, of the planet itself, is to rise above challenges, to move beyond difficulty, to move in a way that each moment is an evolutionary step to some place that we've never been before. And it's done in a holistic, systematic way that allows us to really lean into it and not have to worry about it too much. I give it too much energy because there's a process, there's a flow of life that's always rising to the top, always rising to the top. And so when we can begin to realize that, believe that, tap into that, this idea of rising to the top, of moving beyond adversity and circumstances that are beyond our control, it becomes very easy. Now, you know, I was looking at the talk and I started thinking about my own life and looking at the challenges or the things that were placed in my path. I was born premature. I weighed about 3 pounds. My uncle used to tease me, said, boy, they had you in the incubator like a little chicken. You was, you know, you just mouse, and you know, I told your dad, you're not going to bring that thing home. There was a impetus in me out of all of that said, just keep rising. This is a stepping stone. You can move beyond it. And I got beyond that, you know, started growing and living life. And then at 6 years old, my mother died. Another challenge, another insurmountable mountain, so I thought. And as a result of that, I began to act out and do all manner of things. But there was something inside that said, keep rising to the top. Keep rising to the top. That you do not want to let, or this way. I came to this conclusion that I should never let someone else's opinion of me be my opinion of me. I was clear, even though it was rocky road, I was clear that this wasn't the road I was going to stay on. And the lessons that I learned on that road propelled me in this idea of rising to the top, to face issues, not run from them, not make excuses, because so often that keeps us from rising to the top. How often have you been prepared? You know you've been prepared because you've been studying or whatever it is, training or contemplating, and you get right to the precipice and you allow yourself to talk yourself out of doing what it is that you've been training and pondering and visioning to do. Clip your wings, so to speak. We all have done it, but that's okay. Because if we are wise, we get a chance to remember who we are. Now, there's two different approaches that people use for life. They say life is a school. Then there's another one that I like better. Life is a place where we come to remember who we are. Because if we have the essence of God, I got everything already in me. You have everything already in you. So I don't need to learn it. I just need to remember it's there and use it. There's that song that says, "Why have you come to earth?" It says, you come to remember, to love, serve, and remember. Remember who you are. Remember the powers that you have. Remember the things that you are able to overcome. And you know, I watched the program this week, and it was perfect. The timing was perfect. See, this is how you know you're rising to the top. If things just happen unbeknownst and beyond you. I was watching this story on the young lady from Pakistan, Malala Yousafzai, who was in Pakistan learning to read and write. She wanted to be an engineer, I think it was. And at 15, someone from the Taliban came and shot her in the face. Got on the bus with a mask, called her name, and shot her. Now, that's a high mountain to overcome. She had to learn how to walk again. She had to learn how to talk again. But through all that, she kept rising to the top. She still had this idea of education is paramount for women, for young girls. And as a result of going through all of that, she became the youngest person in the history of our planet to be a Nobel Peace Prize winner at 17. She's only 26 now. She has a foundation on human rights. She has a foundation that deals with educating young women and girls. That is the approach to rising to the top that we all can learn from. We don't care about the circumstances. We don't care about the situation. And I'm willing to bet you she didn't wake up any moment, any morning, at any time to say, you know, I think I'm going to get shot in the face so that I can rise to this occasion. But she did have a spirit in her that says, no matter what happens, I will keep moving. I will move myself in the direction of my dreams. Charles Fillmore says this. He says, imagination gives us the ability to project ourselves through time and space and rise above all limitations. To rise above all limitations. Because you see, if I know where I'm going, you can't tell me where I should be. Because I know where I'm going. That's like the GPS. The GPS, you plug it in, you can take all kind of turns, you can get lost even. And the GPS will say, okay, now where are we? Okay, all right. Now, if you still want to get to that goal, that destination, proceed to the highlighted route. Don't take this route you've been taking. Proceed to the highlighted route to get there, to keep rising to the top. To get to the destination, to be the example of the divine energy and love and creativity that each and every one of us are. There's a divine plan for each one of us. that is based on success, that is based on getting to the end of the goal, whatever that is. No limitations. There's no bondage. There's nothing to keep us. As we talked about last week, we sometimes are so free we bond ourselves. And that's what happens often when we try to rise to the top. We create all kind of barriers, excuses, stories, examples of somebody else who was doing what we were trying to do and failed so that we don't have to do it. But I guarantee you, if you look at anyone that has amounted to something that we aspire to, that's something we admire, they went through these same challenges to rise to the top. Bar none. You just pick one. Don't matter. It does not matter. They have all got on this journey of life to move in the direction of their dreams. Now, Franklin Delano Roosevelt said this: the only limit to our realization of tomorrow is our doubts of today. That's the only thing. That's the only thing is our ability, to conjure up, you know, and they talk about magic. Boy, we can conjure up some magic in our minds, can't we? How many of you may not remember, when you were a kid, you called mom and dad, there's a monster under the bed. You done conjured up a monster under the bed. Ain't no monster under the bed. That monster's in your mind. But you believe that that monster or whatever it is under the bed or peeking through the window or in the closet or wherever you're looking, that keeps you from realizing your perfection, if you will. But when you understand that I can raise my vision, I can adjust my mind, I can increase my belief, then those things disappear. Those shackles, those chains, those things that keep you from rising to the top just move right out of the way. So when we start thinking about how do we do this every day, how do we begin to rise above? How do we begin to move in a way that allows us to say yes, regardless of circumstances? Well, the first thing is vision. First thing we need is vision. There's that song in The Wizard of Oz that says, somewhere over the rainbow, not at the rainbow, not in the rainbow, but over the rainbow, meaning that I may have to go through a little something to get to that pot of gold on the other side. That's vision. Because I don't really see the pot. They told me the pot was there, or I conjured it up in my mind, but I have to have a vision that moves beyond that allows me to see when you can't see it. We know the verse in the Bible what talks about, you know, faith is believing in the unseen. That's part of the vision. That's part of the thing that keeps you moving. Vision is about seeing the invisible that other people can't see. Seeing what other people won't take the time to see. Seeing what other people won't train themselves or discipline themselves to see. That's what a vision is. Not visualization, not me coming up with something. That's great in its place. But I have vision is to see beyond the circumstances, to see beyond the present state and move in a way that just lays everything out real easy. Real easy. Now, one of the heroes of our time capsulized this idea perfectly, and that's Helen Keller. Helen Keller was blind, but Helen Keller said this: the only thing worse than being blind is having sight and no vision. Now that's profound. If you just, the only thing worse than being blind, and she was blind from a young age, is to have sight and no vision. Now, Helen Keller, who went on to accomplish great things through all kinds of turmoil and barriers, she had vision. People looked at her like I'm sure a lot of people looked at me when I was young and said, oh, That's gonna be a challenge in life right there. Not sure how that story gonna end. But her vision of herself was far greater than any vision that anybody had. She said, I will keep rising to the top. And that's exactly what she did. That's exactly what she did. And so when we think about vision, we think about those times when you're able to make a way out of no way. One of the great stories of vision, I think, for me, is George Washington Carver. Now, if you don't know much about George Washington Carver, go look him up. George Washington Carver was born a slave. He was an agriculturist and a scientist. He had the vision to see a peanut, something that you might eat at a ball game. And he came up with 300 products from the peanut. Look at that story. Go look at the story of George Washington Carver. Imagine, now, you know, if you're going to the ball game today, maybe, or you're at the parade and you know, you're chomping on some nuts, just think about one person's vision was able to create 300 products from the little bitty peanut. He came from slavery and said, I'm going to keep rising to the top. I'm going to allow my vision, the God-given creativity and the ability to move beyond circumstances to create, to be an example, to not make excuses, to allow this thing called life to propel me to where I should be. Now, once we've had this ability to tap into vision and we can look over the rainbow, the next thing is resilience. There might be a little resilience you need to get on the other side of that rainbow. There might be some rainy days to create that rainbow that you got to walk through. But you can do it. It's been done before. We don't have to worry about, oh, I don't know if I can walk through the rain. Or something even worse, I don't know if it's possible to walk through the rain. When George Washington Carver, there wasn't 300 products from the peanut when he started thinking about it. He didn't allow that to say, well, ain't nobody did know what peanuts before, so ain't no need of me trying. Let me just keep eating them. No, he said, I don't know, there's something about this peanut I think we can do something different with. I think we can do something different with. And so there was a resilience in George that said, keep moving, keep trying. You do not have to allow circumstances and situation to change your vision, to move you in ways that allow you to not realize and recognize that life is not always going to be easy. Sometimes they're going to be hills and mountains to climb and valleys and streams to cross. But if you are resilient, you can do it. You can move beyond. There's this famous quote by Bruce Lee that I think really encapsulates what it means to be resilient. Very short, very powerful. When you have to dig into it, he says, be like water, my friend. Be like water. Water doesn't let anything deter what it is. If you pour it in a cup, it'll take the shape of a cup. You pour it in a pot, it'll take the shape of a pot. If you drop it one time continuously with some commitment and discipline, it'll drill a hole through steel. Water's like, I'm resilient. I don't, whatever you try to do, I'm gonna deal with it. Be like water. We can, and the interesting thing about water, right? It can take all physical forms. It can take a liquid, it can take a solid, it can take a gas. I can freeze it, it's a solid. If I just let it flow, if I heat it, it's a steam, it's gas. Be like water so that we can be resilient, so that we can look at any mountain and say, move, and then that mountain will move. That's how you keep rising to the top. That's what Malala did when they shot her. She was resilient. She was resilient. Maya Angelou says this. She says, you may encounter many defeats, but you must not be defeated. In fact, it may be necessary to encounter defeats so you can know who you are, what you can rise from, how you can still come out of it. No matter what it is. That's what resilience will do for you. It'll keep you, no matter what it is, you'll figure out a way. You'll learn to say, okay, adapt. There's the story of this little frog. Y'all heard the story about the little frog who fell in the milk? 2 frogs fell in the milk, right? And one was, he just gave up. He tried for a little while, no resilience, he gave up. The other frog just kept on churning, just kept on churning, trying to get out. Pretty soon, that butter became milk. I mean, the milk became butter, and then the frog just jumped on out. That's what you got to do. That's what we have to do. We have to be like that little frog. We just have to keep on churning and turn that milk into butter. That's what life is calling us to do. Are you ready? Are you ready? And then if you are ready, are you willing? Because I know you're able, because God has given all of us that ability to rise, to move through circumstances, to move through things that we may not like. The question is, are we willing? Are we willing to find this energy, this light, this vision within ourselves to rise? Now, once we've gained the vision, and once we tap into this resilience that is within each and every one of us, the last thing that we need to do, which is a powerful piece, you got to believe in yourself. You got to believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, as the saying goes, ain't nobody gonna believe in you. You have to believe in yourself. Because you think about, I love to refer to nature because there's so many great lessons in nature. Now, when you look at an ant, you just see you see a nuisance, really. Something that if you wait and let it get on you, it'll bite, certain types anyway. But one of the amazing things about the ant can carry, you're not going to believe this, 5,000 times its own mass. Go look it up. 5,000 times its own mass. It can pick up a leaf or a stick or something that's 5,000 times its mass and carry it with ease and grace. If you ever see that thing moving with a leaf or whatever, it's just moving. Like he got his own rhythm, his own drum major. He's just moving down the road. She was believing in herself. She didn't let somebody say, you look a little small to be trying to lift that big old leaf. Belief in oneself is part of this thing of rising to the top. Ernest Holmes says this, and I added a little picture there of 2 ants. And Ernest says this: we are surrounded by an intelligent force and substance from which all things come. It is around us in its original state, ready and willing to take form through the impulse of our creative belief. The ant didn't worry. You know, the ant tapped into that real good. He didn't worry about any of the other stuff. Look, there's some creative stuff in me. I can figure this out. I can rise to the top. I can get through the obstacles. I can get through the adversity. Well, if the ant can do it, I'm sure we can do it. I'm sure we can rise above. Keep rising to the top. And so, in closing, as we begin to tap into this idea of cultivating our vision or seeing beyond the current circumstances, and then having the resilience to work through the challenges to get there, which all of that is seated on this idea of belief in myself, knowing that I am a facsimile of the divine. You remember when you used to have fax machines, you just get a facsimile, right? Some people may be listening and say, what the heck is a fax? But yeah, there was this thing called fax, and you could get a facsimile, a copy, if you will. That's what we are of the divine. We are a facsimile of the divine, and we have all of this power, presence, and ability to rise. So let us continue to harvest that energy, that understanding, that wisdom, that magic to move us beyond anything that seems to stop us and allow us to tap into sacred courage. There is this song, some of you may have remembered. I wrote it down because I just wanted to speak on a couple of verses. It was a song by McFadden and Whitehead that says, ain't no stopping us now. We're moving on. And it said this, it says, there's been many times that things have held us down, but now it looks like things are finally turning around. I know we've got a long, long way to go, and where it'll end, I don't know. But we won't let nothing hold us back. We're putting ourselves together. We're polishing up our act. If you felt we've been held down before, I know you'll refuse to be held down anymore. Don't let nothing stand in your way. I want you to listen to every word I say. Ain't no stopping us now. We're on the move. We're in the groove. And so it is. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, Mother God, that complete aspect of life, that parts that gives birth and takes care of life, that give and take of the universe, of our very being, that is the intelligence that has created the entire universe in harmony, in this sacred symbiotic dance of helping and giving to each other. We now call upon that power, that intelligence, that understanding, and we cloak it over everything we do. We allow it to be our eyes in the dark and our feet and legs as we climb the mountain. Because I know that each and every one of us are a facsimile of that ability, of that understanding, of that resilience, of that belief that there is nothing that can stop us from creating a world that works for all, that allows us to shine in any situation. And so as we begin to really take that to heart and really inculcate that in everything that we do, we begin to just realize there are no real obstacles. There are ways or things that allow us to remember who we are so that we can face the task that's before us. And so I declare right here, right now, for those here and those online and those who may be listening later, I declare that we are awakening to our true nature. We are awakening to our true power so that we won't let anything hold us back. We're getting ourselves together and we're tightening up our act. We're going to create a world where everyone has the opportunity to shine, to rise, to be all that they can be. Because the divine power has given us that ability, that right. We now only have to claim it. And so right here, right now, we claim it. And it is in that claiming that I give thanks, because it allows me to awaken something that's deep inside, that's waiting to shine through, that's waiting to awaken and allow me to live a life of joy, service, and remembrance. And so I just released these words into a law that is already working, that's already rising it to the top. to allow us to continue to be the manifestation of the divine that we were created to be. And so I release it, I let it go, and I know that it is absolutely so and already working in our lives. And so it is. Amen. And so it is. And so, as always, we have a couple of call to actions just to keep us honest. And the first one is examine your past successes and challenges and review what approach, skills, or attitudes you use to rise above them. And when you've done that, look at what is one thing you can do this week to move you closer to one of your goals that you've been having some stumbling blocks with. Just take a little time, 5 minutes. We can spare 5 minutes today. Don't just set your watch, or your clock or your phone or something, and get 5 minutes. And what we have now, we have this affirmation that'll help us sink that in, that says, I am optimistic as this new day begins. So we say that every morning, and we think about how have we overcome certain obstacles to keep rising to the top. And so we want to thank you, as always, for being with us today.